Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of SLJ. We unfortunately have to cross-examination Mr. Attition again. Apparently he's claimed to solve the crime in act, so now we have to break down his testimony. Oh! Well, that's interesting. The music was slow when we originally listened to him, so now it's picked up for this. So I guess this really is the last testimony. You were on a so-called mobile meet and greet at 11 at night?
That's right. It's the perfect time because everyone's at home. You should have seen how the villagers' eyes teared up when they heard what I had to say.
With tears of frustration, no doubt. You weren't riding around in your palanquin?
That's right. Some village idiot reported me to the police. I've been banned from using it after dark.
No wonder. What with all the noise he makes? So what exactly did you see then? Sounds like you witnessed something rather shocking.
Indeed, I didn't even believe it at first. I mean, a vicious murder in Karain?
There haven't been many murders there, I take it.
If I'm elected, I promise you that such a terrible tragedy will never happen again. A vote for me is a vote to banish murder forever from our beloved Karain village.
Yeah, good luck with that. Mr. Attition Whipperson, please tell the court what you saw at the scene of the crime. We're skipping over this statement for now. Are you sure?
I'm positive. I saw it with my own two eyes.
Yet, despite your certainty, you kept quiet about it until now?
No, I was waiting. I knew there would be a perfect chance to talk about it later. Information must always be disclosed in a strategic manner. That is one of the lessons of Kingcraft, as taught by the Attition clan.
Is there a lesson by chance in the Attition Kingcraft King Guidebook on being honest?
Anyway, I saw Mr. Rebel commit that heinous crime.
I'm sure you did see it. This guy. I would have to agree, that suitcase is really heavy. Wait a second. How did you know it was so heavy? For all you knew, it could have been empty.
Ugh.
My client witnessed the crime in progress. So naturally, he saw Mr. Rebel straining to lift what was obviously a heavy suitcase. I can't say I'm a fan of you trying to discredit my client by tripping him up, Mr. Justice.
But I'm just doing what you always do, Mr. Wright. Talk about new testimony. He's totally changed his story. If he really had seen the murder taking place, you'd think he'd have said so from the start. Maybe he had some reason to hide what he really saw. If so, that might be our only opening. Alright, we're gonna go back to that third statement and press it again. He snuck up from behind. So you're saying the doctor never even realized Mr. Rebel was there?
That's right, he was utterly absorbed in a book.
I see. What did you see Mr. Rebel do next?
He climbed up the bookshelf ladder and dumped a bunch of books down on the body. I believe he was trying to make it look like an accident. But that idiot didn't realize I could see everything from outside the window.
One of those statements doesn't feel right. Your Honor, I believe the witness made an important statement just now about how the doctor was reading a book. The doctor was reading a book at the time of the murder? That's vital testimony. Very well, the witness will please add that statement to his testimony.
The doctor was standing in front of the bookshelves, absorbed in a book.
You watched a murderer commit his crime and did nothing to stop it? That doesn't sound like a good way to score points with the voting public.
I'm a politician, not a superhero. I'm under no obligation to risk life and limb.
He sure is quick to deny his obligations when there's nothing in it for him. I'm getting tired of listening to his endless campaigning and flimsy rationalizations.
About your testimony, Mr. Attition Wimperson. You said Mr. Rebel struck the doctor from behind while he was absorbed in a book.
Yes, that's exactly what happened.
I don't believe that one bit, because didn't the murder scene happen, where was the suitcase? Let's go back. Okay, we're presenting the glasses.
Objection!
The doctor was standing in front of the bookshelves, absorbing a book, you say? I'm sorry, but it seems your testimony is completely unreliable.
That's quite a bold statement. Well, let's hear you back it up. I challenge you to prove that I am anything but 100% reliable.
It would be my pleasure. Lately, it seems the doctor's eyes had gotten so bad he needed reading glasses. However, his reading glasses were over on his desk. So, you see, there's no way he could have been reading in front of the bookshelves. I'm sorry, Mr. Attition Wimperson, but I'm going to have to ask you to explain this discrepancy to the voting public. You what?
I'll explain it, you lowly cur! I simply made a mistake, you see. The doctor was actually sitting at his desk when Mr. Rebel hit him over the head.
But then the doctor would have been facing him. Surely he would have seen him and tried to run?
Dr. Buff was nodding off. I could tell because his eyes were closed and he wasn't moving.
Sounds more like what you would do. Then how do you explain the fact that he was struck in the back of the head? Is that something that should be impossible? Isn't that something that should be impossible from the front of the desk?
Oh, about that. He bowed his head when he nodded off. That's when he was clobbered.
So that's what you saw. Well, Mr. Justice, that sounds like a perfectly reasonable explanation to me. Do you have a problem with the proposal that the doctor was struck while nodding off? That's a big problem. There is a problem. A very big problem. The witness statement doesn't hold up under the slightest bit of scrutiny. Is that so? Then will you please show this court what evidence you have to justify this? Gladly, Your Honor. This shows the problem with the witness's claim that he saw the doctor nodding off. We have the study diagram? The study diagram. A diagram of the study? Mr. Attition Wimperson allegedly viewed the murder from here. And the doctor was allegedly nodding off here. But from his vantage point, the bookcase would have blocked the witness's line of sight. Why, yes, I believe you're right.
But...
Objection!
The fact remains, my client knew that the suitcase was the murder weapon. So he definitely has first-hand knowledge of the crime scene.
I'm afraid I have to agree with you there, Mr. Wright. But then we have to ask ourselves, from what vantage point did he see the murder?
What are you insinuating, Mr. Justice?
From what vantage point could Mr. Attition Wimperson have seen the dozing doctor? Once we determine that, I believe we'll finally see the truth behind this incident. The witness saw the murder from right here. assuming from right over here, because that's like, you can see right across.
You've got to be kidding!
But that's... It is indeed, but everything only makes sense if the witness was there in the study. Inside the study? But that's the scene of the crime! I know. Mr. Artician Whipperson, the man who claims to be a witness to the murder, was most certainly in that very room. Apollo, are you suggesting... Mr. Artician Whipperson, weren't you the one who actually swung that suitcase?
What you're proposing is ludicrous. My client is a small, thin man, whereas Mr. Rebel has the musculature to pull it off.
He has a point. I gave up trying to lift that thing after one go. Apollo.
That's right. He's the only one who could have lifted such a heavy object. Now do you understand? The rebel that's a rebel is the doctor's killer.
As long as the suitcase is the murder weapon, the suspicion falls entirely on Dats. You'll have to poke a hole in Mr. Wright's argument somehow, Apollo. Oh, I will, and with his own technique, no less. If Mr. Artician Whipperson couldn't swing the suitcase around, we'll just have to consider another way he could have used it as a murder weapon. I'm going to turn this case on its head, Mr. Wright, just like you taught me.
You talk big, Mr. Justice, but do you have what it takes?
Well, this should be interesting. Mr. Artician Whipperson's testimony has been filled with one inaccuracy after another. First, he stated that Dr. Buff was in front of the bookshelves. Now he claims that the doctor was sitting at his desk. So where was the victim really when he was killed? Also, where was his killer, and how was the murder weapon really used? So the important thing here is the position of the victim and killer relative to each other. Yes, Your Honor. If they were positioned in a certain way, it would be possible to use the suitcase as a weapon without lifting a finger.
You can't mean...
He dropped it from the second floor. I would ask the court to recall the study's layout. It's quite distinctive, as you can see. Now, if Dr. Buff were sitting in a certain spot, and his killer was at a certain other spot, the suitcase would become a weapon anyone could use. Very well, Mr. Justice. Where was Dr. Buff's killer at the time of the crime? Same spot again. Actually, in the previous one where it was asking where politician was be, you could technically select any part of the study, but really he was standing over here. There?
Oh, that's...
This should wrap things up nice and pretty for you, Mr. Wright. I would ask the court to recall the study's layout. But this time, instead of thinking in 2 dimensions, let's think in 3. Only then can we clearly see the killer's method at work. Oh shit, we're bringing this back again. I love how they brought back this AG mechanic. The killer didn't have to swing the suitcase. If he used gravity to his advantage, that is. That's right. It was the plaintiff, one Paul Artician Whipperson, who used the suitcase. He pushed it from the second floor and sent it hurtling down onto Dr. Buff, who was sitting at the coffee bar.
No!
The psychology book had been at the coffee bar, no doubt. The doctor must have set it down there after he finished reading it or the like. But his blood got on it, which is why the killer thought to hide it in that mountain of books.
That's quite an entertaining theory you have there, Mr. Justice. But there's no evidence that the murder took place at the coffee bar.
I'm not so sure about that, Mr. Wright. I'd say that evidence of the murder occurring at the coffee bar exists. The evidence does exist, and I'm going to show you.
You are?
This right here is proof that the murder took place at the coffee bar. This coffee stain right here. This brown stain was determined to be coffee. What's more, it was still a bit damp when we saw it yesterday morning. One look at this book speaks volumes. I'm afraid, Mr. Wright. Speaks volumes, he says. It tells us the doctor was having a cup of coffee at the coffee bar. That's when the suitcase came hurtling down, striking him on the head, causing both his blood and his coffee to splatter onto it. Well, Mr. Attition Wimperson?
What motive could I have possibly had to kill Dr. Buff?
And there it is, that final excuse corner killers are so fond of. Well, the doctor never returned your crystal to you, did he? Instead, he hid it in the cave ruins. Telling him that the Defiant Dragons were a dangerous bunch was a huge blunder. All it did was make him hide the orb. Your lie came back to bite you in the end. Even worse, the doctor saw the news report, so he knew the relic was the Founder's orb. Being the contentious researcher he was, he knew he had to return it to its rightful place. And that meant keeping it out of your hands. You were so angry that he refused to return the relic to you that you killed him with your own hands. Isn't that right, Mr. Attition Wimperson? His name. I love saying it like with such seriousness.
That is...
Apollo! Don't! Please don't accuse my client of murder.
Huh? What do you mean, don't accuse him? Why would you even say that, Mr. Wright?
What I meant was, he's a promising politician with a bright future ahead of him.
Right?
It's in our nation's best interest to avoid burdening him with the taint of scandal.
Say what? More tape.
Right, you'd better do something to change the current courtroom climate. Or I'll be charged with murder. And you know what will happen to her if that happens.
You can't see it, but I'm making this like... So Maya has this is Maya Fey. It has to be Maya Fey because it's her. Like, I don't know who else would it be. So, let me get this straight. Maya has been accused for murder in one case, and now Maya is kidnapped in another case. Let's just put all the trope memes about Maya Fey in one freaking game. I'm just, so mad right now. What's he talking about? Well, I can ponder that later. For now. Mr. Wright, you can't possibly believe that Mr. Rebel is the killer. Are you really going to send an innocent man to prison? I thought you were better than that. Well, Mr. Wright, answer me. Okay, well, since Mr. Wright is yelling now, the reason why I'm really angry about that is just... At At least do something with her that's outside of her tropes that we've already experienced in the original games. Why did you feel the need to make her the murderer, make her be accused of murder, and also get kidnapped all in one game? I'm so mad about that. They could have done so much other stuff with her, but no, they're just gonna stick to something that we already have experienced and done before, and just... This is why this whole... This battle between Phoenix and Apollo just lost its, like... its amazingness, because pretty much Phoenix Wright was just held on the noose because of Maya Fey. Like, this is not even a legitimate fight between the two of them. And that's what disappoints me about this trial.
Mr. Wright? What in the world's going on here? If you won't say anything, then... Mr. Attition Whipperson, the defense hereby accuses you of... Apollo, wait! Not you too, Athena. It's just, I wasn't sure whether I should say anything, but... During that last recess, when I went to check on Mr. Wright, I overheard something I shouldn't have.
I trust Maya is unharmed.
I can't really say, but just remember.
Did he really bring his entire palanquin in? Well, you know what? He took it into the courtroom, so yes, he could.
If I'm arrested or fail to obtain the treasure, there will be consequences. Consequences of the worst kind, if you catch my drift.
Ugh.
Relax. All you have to do is ensure I get my hands on that relic. I must deliver it to my benefactor at all costs.
What do they want that relic for, anyway?
It's something to do with an old legend. My patron seeks the great power said to be granted to whoever solves its secret.
I need some hot cocoa after this.
Maya? As in Maya Fey? Yes, the boss's legendary former assistant. Miss Fey's being held hostage? So it seems. Why didn't you tell me as soon as you heard this? Sorry, it's just Mr. Wright spotted me before I could slip away and made me promise not to tell you. He said it would make things more difficult if you found out.
Well, things are difficult right now! Oh, as if things weren't already hard enough. So that's why Mr. Wright was acting so strange.
I had no idea. This must have been excruciating for him. Think, Justice. There's got to be something you can do.
Mr. Justice, about that last statement of yours. I believe you were in the middle of accusing the plaintiff of murdering Dr. Buff. Would you care to continue?
I'm
sorry, Apollo. I'm really, really sorry.
What's gotten into you two? Could they just say that this guy has Maya as a hostage and stop the trial?
If I accused that slime bag, I put Miss Fey's life in jeopardy.
It seems you've finally caught on. I'm far too important to be accused of murder. After all, our nation's future rests squarely on my shoulders.
Sure it does.
Oh, either I give up or...
Once I present the crystal to my patron, my victory is assured. And then one day, I'll become president, and then king. I'll have every politician at my command. Now, retract your accusation.
I can't kowtow to him, but the fence would like to retract the previous
What the? Oh, hi!
Dude, that objection was epic. Hi!
Apollo,
Dirk?
I don't know what's going on here, but a lawyer should never look the way you do right now. With defeat and resignation written all over your face.
A dragon never yields.
Even when wounded, a dragon bites down hard and never lets go till its dying breath. It glares, it roars, and it latches its jaws firmly onto its prey till the bitter end. That's what lawyers do to get the truth!
Dirk. A dragon never yields. He's right. It's all over if I give up now. If Mr. Wright's hands are tied, it's up to me to do what must be done. He saved my neck so many times. Did he? When? Like, okay, sure. Now, it's my turn to save his. I mean, I guess he gave you a job, but... Dirk, thanks for that wake-up call.
Heh, now that's the face of a lawyer you've got there, son.
Where there's a will, there's a way. And I'm going to find the way to save Miss Faye and see that justice is served. Are we doing a thought route? Doing a thought route. Let's go! That scumbag is holding Miss Faye hostage to ensure he gets the orb for his Patreon. And it seems said Patreon believes in the orb's legend. Thing is, the founder did appear when the orb was exposed to fire, just as the legend said. If the legend is true, then we've already solved the riddle, right? No, not yet. We have not solved the riddle yet. The legend says the founder will bestow great spiritual power when she returns. But if that's true, it means we haven't solved the whole riddle yet. But how can that be? Are we missing something? Wait, maybe. Maybe the part about the founder returning should be taken literally. But how would it be possible for a dead person to return to the world of the living? Cloning. How do I want to pick these? Oh, I know! Cloning technology. I bet some of the founder's DNA is hidden somewhere in the orb. Oh, what am I talking about? They didn't know about DNA and cloning back then. Better think of something else. Time travel! Oh, I know! Time travel! We could go back to the past and bring the founder here to the present! Wait, what am I saying? Maybe I should cut back on the sci-fi movies. Nah. I better think of something else. Apollo, bless. Channeling! That means they need a spirit medium! They can't do anything to Maya! The founder can return through channeling. Oh, I know! There is a way for the dead to return! Spirit channeling! Of course, you'd have to know what the founder looks like first. But the orb has revealed her face to us, so what if it's a sign that we should channel her? I think you still need her name, though. Given the facts, in order to solve the riddle and receive the founder's power, I'd need to practice a spirit medium. A medium is needed to obtain the power. The ability of a medium to channel spirits is the final key to unlocking the orb's secret. That means Mr. Optician Wimperson's patron will need one too. And once that slimy politician realizes that, he won't be able to lay a finger on Miss Faye. Everything's going to be okay, Mr. Wright. Because Mr. Politician Wimperson can't afford to harm a hair on Miss Faye's head.
Huh?
Mr. Optician Wimperson,
It seems you've chosen the wrong person to take hostage.
What do you mean?
Okay, we will, I guess I did not realize what time it was, but we're gonna have to continue this in the next video, so, I'll see you guys then!